There we go. So welcome everyone. And thank you for coming out again tonight. We're going to continue our Journey 2050. And tonight we're going to look at a little bit on the career side of things and some more on our sustainability as well. So what I want to first do, I just don't want to lose things here. There we go. So what I want you guys to think about first is your regular grocery list that your mom or your dad or whoever might have. And I want you to think a little bit about this grocery list. And what I want you to do is on a piece of paper or just in your head, whichever you prefer, I want you to think of one of these items. It doesn't have to be an item on this list. It could be any kind of item that you guys would regularly shop for at the grocery store. And what I want you to do is I want you to think of all of the careers that come into play to get that product to the grocery store. So I want you guys to jot down on a piece of paper all of the careers that you can think of that played a role in getting that that item from your grocery list into the store. Can you guys do that for me? I'll give you like just a couple minutes. Think about every step in between from beginning to end. As many careers as you can think of that would be involved in getting that that item into the store. I got a few. All right, so how many careers did you come up with? You can either shout them out or just type them in the chat. How many careers did you come up with? Did you come up with 5? Did you come up with 10?
3.
3, right on. Someone said 6, 15, 13, 5 and still counting, 8. Yep, awesome. 4, right on. 10, nice. A lot. Yes, that's a fair statement. And that's true. There is a lot of different steps that we have to take to get the product essentially from farm to fork, right? 26. Awesome. So I'm going to show you on this next, whoops, I'm not apparently. There we go. So for example, when we look at, and we were to brainstorm, so we would take our milk, for example, right? And we think of all the different steps that it takes to get. So we have our dairy farmer, right? And then what else would we have? We have all of the different steps in between, right? So for example, cheese. Whoops, there we go. This is an example of just some. This doesn't even entail all of the different jobs that it took to produce, for example, the product cheese, right? So we have our dairy farmer right there. And the dairy farmer is going to work with a whole ton of people, right? The animal nutritionist, the geneticist, the veterinarian, the food inspector. They're going to also work with a bank loans officer. And they're going to work with a mechanic. And then we can also think of the crop farmer that's used to work along with the dairy farmer, and the engineer and the truck driver. As you can see, I could list them all, but you can all see that. There's so many positions out there for everyone and all the steps that takes to get to our table. And the one thing I want to say too is there's, as I said, there could be many.
I need it. I'm about mine. I need it. It's wrong.
Oh, story. Oh, okay. Sorry. So we have this huge interconnection of careers, right? That takes that we depend upon each other to produce the food we eat, right? So it's so important to note that how there's all these different steps and careers and how they're all interconnected to bring food to the table. So now we're going to do something fun. So if you remember from your game last week, if you go to the Journey 2050 site, you guys are going to select level 6 this time, the careers one. And this is really fun because what's going to happen is you're going to create your own little avatar, and then you're going to answer some questions based on your interests and your favorite subjects in school, how you like to work and things like that. And then it's going to, once you enter that, it's going to generate some agriculture careers that relates to your interests. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. And when you're done, you can let me know in the chat what career you selected, because you'll get a few different options. All right. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that and play that part of the game on level 6. Let me know if you're having any problems or issues. Okay.
These new kids don't know what's happening.
Oh, yes, thank you. My apologies. Yeah, so for the ones that weren't there last week, if you go to, let me just escape out of here and I'll show you the site, then I don't lose you guys here. If you go to journey2050.com, I'm going to go way back. I've got it listed here. Oops, this is probably easier. So go to journey2050.com if you weren't here last week, and then you're going to select play the game. There's a part that asks for a teacher's code. You don't need to enter the teacher's code. So you just enter your name and you play the game.
Okay, and we have to minimize our screen somehow, right?
Yeah, if you're working on just the same one, you bet. Yeah. My apologies, everyone. I got ahead of myself. So yeah, Journey 2050. For some people, it takes a little time to load, so that's not a problem. We'll let everybody get.
I don't know, how come I'm not seeing an option to minimize here though? Where is the option on our?
Do you have probably try the escape key?
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
We'll come in here. And then you said it was
Journey 2050.
Journey2050.com. You bet.
And then play game, or what was it?
Yeah, play the game.
Play.
And then you can jump right ahead to level 6. It should let you. And then it'll let you create your avatar, and then the career questions will come up.
So you go up, and it says play game.
Okay.
Nope.
That's a game.
Play game.
Oh, play game. Okay. Play game and no, that didn't do that.
I'll pull it up here at the same time so you can see.
So
online.
School edition or free farm game? Sorry.
It's not, you don't need to play the school edition.
Play online maybe?
No, it was
Play
back up.
online, yeah. So then you just hit the browser you're on. If you see, I just clicked Chrome,
Go up,
and then it'll say your game loading.
free farm edition. And then we're supposed to create an avatar or something. I don't think we need to though.
We can.
No, we don't.
Yes, we can.
You guys, I'm not hearing what she's saying. Create your own virtual farm, no ads, view, visit website, download.
Oh, you're on the Farmers 2050 game, which is an extension of this game that I'll get to at the end. But if you hit play game, and you would have come up to, I'll just show you this part again. To this, and then you would have got these ones here.
Okay, so let me just open this up. I'm not viewing you at the same time.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
Okay, so we are viewing what, sorry?
So do you have a screen like
I haven't seen this, no. How did
Okay.
you get there?
So when I was here, when I went to Journey 2050, I went to play game up in the right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then it brought me to this screen, and I just selected what you select, whichever web browser you're preferring to use. So I selected Chrome for myself, and then it took me to this screen here.
And I will just.
You might get a login screen before that to type in your name. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry about this. We end up forgetting last week, so.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
So here we are with this one. And, oh. Chrome, loading your game, and then teacher code.
Skip that teacher code part and just put in your name.
Just skip it and put in, just put in your name.
Oh. Addison, and then last name, just put one of their names.
Yeah, that works. fine.
Okay, and you said skip the teacher code,
Yeah, you don't need the teacher code.
sign in. Okay, here they are. So
What
do
will
we,
our world be like
do we
in the
shut
year
off music
2050?
or something?
By
Yeah,
2050,
you
the Earth will
can
be crowded
skip
by
that
2
video
billion more.
down at the bottom. It allows you to.
We're all
skip
going to
that.
need water, homes, jobs, and
Oh my
medicines.
goodness, skip video, okay.
And then you should get to the levels and
And
then
level 6.
you bet.
Okay, they're there, I think.
I see some people are coming in with some of their careers. We've got photographer, agriculture teacher, awesome, veterinarian, nice, geospatial data provider, awesome. Emmett, have you ever heard of that career? A vet, awesome. No, yeah, that's one that a lot of people haven't heard of. And to be honest, that didn't
Go back to the
really
video
my
and
career.
put it on mute.
Equipment sales manager, awesome, farmer, veterinarian. I have to say I'm a little biased. I'm excited to see
Go
all
to the
these.
Zoom button down there. Over, no,
Right. This one here.
I'm excited to see all of these vets coming in because you guys may or may not know, but we are in a vet shortage here in Canada. So I'm excited to see that. And I hope some of you guys maybe will be a vet someday. Photographer, awesome, farmer. That's great. I'll just give everyone a few more minutes to get through their career. And
I
see-
can't get in.
Equipment sales manager. Vet and a farmer. There you go. Yeah, a farmer. A welder. Awesome. And sometimes I've gone back and and you change some of the answers. It gives you a few different career opportunities. You bet. If you can't get on right now, don't worry. You can definitely do it at a later date. That's not a problem. You bet. So. Graphic designer. Cool. I'll give everyone a couple more minutes. Does that sound good? Thumbs up. Maybe so. Yeah. Okay. So. Equipment sales manager. Oh, that's cool. I love seeing all the different careers come up. It's really exciting. And maybe some of them are things that you never even thought about, which is great to see something new and exciting that you possibly might not have thought about before. So. So just when we're thinking about the careers, and like if I go back to that example of the cheese and all of the things that it took to get there, you know, when I talk about, sorry, I'll bring my presentation back up. And I'll just get back down to our cheese. So when we look at, you know, animal geneticists too, this is something that's not often thought about, but how important their research is into the genetic traits that impact the health and the productivity of animals, and how they can help farmers make the decisions regarding their genetics and breeding of their animals. Our animal nutritionists, right? Formulating the diets of the animals to meet their nutritional needs. Especially like when we think about the cheese and the dairy farmer, how those nutritionists are really helping the dairy farmers provide a healthy diet, for their cattle at each stage of their life. The inspectors are something we don't often think about as well. The ones that are monitoring the transportation of livestock animals and verifying livestock ownership. Our salesmen we need in all aspects of our operations. Our soil scientists and agronomists, analyzing the quality of the soil. We talked about that a little bit last week, and how important it was to make sure we were ensuring our nutrients were kept up in the soil and we were monitoring that. Plant geneticists, right? Studying those genetic traits of the plants, and using methods of crossbreeding and hybridization to perpetuate those real desirable traits, right? And the truck drivers, we can't ever forget our truck drivers, the ones that transport all our agriculture goods between every step of the production to the processing, right? So, and how we get distributed to our consumers. And as I said, the list just continues on and on. So there's so many opportunities. So I hope you had some fun playing level 6. I'm going to come back to the game part towards the end and talk to you a little bit more about that. But now I'm going to go on a little bit when we look at, again, what our big overarching question is. Does anybody remember what that big question was? Can anyone type that in, or in the chat, or say it out loud? Does anybody remember what was our big arching question from last week? Oops, I just opened my chat up here. Yes, Alana, you got it. How can we feed the population of the world in the year 2050, right? So how are we going to do that? How are we going to do that sustainably, right? So that was our big overarching question, and how we're going to feed all of these people when we're going to have, you know, almost 10 billion people by the year 2050, and we have to produce 60 to 70% more food. So and then when we think about it, when we look at farmers and ranchers represent essentially 2% of our population in North America. So that small percentage is feeding the world. And when we look at the jobs that are in agriculture and are related to agriculture in America, it's 1 in 11. Every 1 in 11 jobs is related to agriculture. In Canada here, 1 in every 8 jobs in Canada is related to the agriculture and agri-food industry. So there's some huge opportunities for everyone to get excited about, you know, all the different careers and opportunities that you can have to be a big part of our overarching goal, right? I'm going to talk a little bit about food security risks. Now, some of you guys might not know what food security is. And when we talk about food security, we're essentially talking about, like we talked about briefly last week, but making sure everybody has access to good food, right? So when we think about food security, I just got to check my time, make sure we're still doing good. We think about 1/3 of our total food supply is actually wasted. And that's just crazy when you think about that. 1/3 of our food, of our total food supply, is wasted. So I have a question for you. And some of you may or may not know, you might have to ask your mom or dad. But how many of you guys, when you're out and about, like, go and buy the ugly carrots? How many of you guys, when you're out and about shopping, buy the ugly carrots?
Nope.
Nope. Yeah, never. No, right? So, but that's part of it, right? So that's one of the things that we, never ever, you know. So it's something to think about. Say if you got an ugly carrot from your garden, would you eat that carrot though? Yeah, they're cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's just something to think about, and something that's part of our food security risk. So when we think about it, there's about 1.4 billion people who are living in the world in extreme poverty. So that means there's about 800, and of that, so there's 1.4 that live in extreme poverty. Then if we think about, there's about 870 million. Now I'm throwing out these numbers and I understand these are big numbers and it's hard to fathom, but it's important that it's all part of our food security. But there's about 870 million people that are actually hungry, malnourished, and food insecure. So they have difficulty acquiring food. So in the developed countries, so that's why I was asking about the ugly carrots, because in developed countries like Canada, for example, food is thrown out and is overconsumed, right? In developing countries, food gets lost to unreliable storage and transportation, right? They don't have the ability to store that food. So these are all parts and pieces that contribute to food security risk. Whoops. So these are all the things that I just spoke about. So here's an example of the ugly carrots, right? So it's not that perfect carrot, but it still is nutritionally has value in that. But these are all things that are part of our food security risk. So hunger, we know, is often caused by food waste and inequality of distribution, not really scarcity, but that unequal distribution. So just things to think about that are out there that we want everyone to know about. And it still plays a big part in what we do and part of this challenge of feeding the world, right? So I'm gonna ask you guys to think a little bit. A country that has an overabundance of food versus a country that is hungry, right? So what kind of challenges would arise in a country that is hungry versus potential challenges that arise in a country that has an overabundance of food? And I just want you guys to think about that, because I'm going to put this up because I want to just talk about it. So a country that is hungry, and typically in an underdeveloped country, they face things like malnutrition, healthcare risks, violence and thievery. There's lots of vulnerability to their markets and their storage, right? They just don't have the facilities to store the food. They also have a decline in education attendance, right? So we all know that when we have nourished bodies, we have nourished minds. So they see that in their education, political distress and corruption, decline in their infrastructure. So that's, their buildings and how things are built in that, and an investment in technology and innovation. And then of course, there's always risks of unsustainable practices across their industries, sorry. But where a country that has an overabundance of food, they are looking at, we have quality food that gets thrown out. We have those that are maybe overindulging and increasing in calorie intake. We have a rise in our Western style diets and desire from food from other places. There's a shift, obviously we see this all the time. There's a shift to a more urban population, which results in a disconnect with life. We see that now, right? There's more disconnect from our farms than there ever has been before. And then of course our consumer demands, there's always changing in what's kind of the hip and cool thing to be doing, right? Around, so there's different perspectives on all of this, genetically modified, organic, free range versus barn raised. So there's all of these different things that come about in a country that has an overabundance of food, things that they never think about in a country that's hungry, for example. So lots of different things to think about. I know I'm kind of giving some of you guys like this, your head might be going, oh my goodness, but they're all part and parcel of this journey that we're taking to feed the world, and some of the concerns and whoops, that we have. So in thinking about this and in thinking about our challenge of how we're going to feed the world, we need to look at, and I alluded to this a little bit last week, about how much of the Earth's surface is ideal for growing crops, right? How much do you guys think? I saw one in the chat says 10% of the Earth's surface. Is there any other guesses out there of what do you guys think? How much? 25%? Does surface include water? Yes, it does include the water, right? Yeah.
75%.
75%. Okay. 15, 35, 8. Any other guesses? 60. Okay, so what we're going to learn how most 7, 10. Awesome. Oh, there we go. So we know that this big chunk, if we think of an apple, usually I have an apple if I'm in a classroom setting and I cut the apple up, but I can't do that right now. So if we think of an apple, we're going to see the largest chunk of our apple is taken up. And especially, like, what do you think about when you see a globe of the world at school or something like that? It's mostly water, right?
Water.
Water, exactly. So the water on our Earth's surface represents between oceans, lakes, rivers. It represents 3/4 of our apple, right? 3/4 of our world is water. So of course we can't farm on that, although we are learning to do some neat things though with that. But what we have left is essentially 25% that is land mass, right? So of that 25%, we have a big chunk here, as you can see, is mountains, Arctic, Antarctic, and desert, right? We can't grow anything there. And then the next big chunk is urban areas, right? The cities, land that's either too wet or dry or rocky, for example. So that's takes up another portion of our apple. Now we're down to this little red slice of our apple. And I saw a couple people here in the chat are very close to that percent. They got 4 and 2.5. And yeah, it works out to essentially we have 3.1% of our Earth's surface are we able to farm on. 3%. And we have to be able to feed a population of 10 billion people by the year 2050. Yeah. So it's really,
No.
it's really, when you start to think about that and in terms of how are we going to do this, this is where your guys' bright young minds are going to come in, because as we mentioned, in the year 2050, you guys are going to be the adults and making the decisions. So these are things that you guys can start thinking about and how we're going to do this. So that's the sort of the big scientific thing behind that. But as we see our world increasing, and these are the factors that we have, we're not going to gain any more land, right? Or the water is going to be there. We're still going to have our mountains and our desert. And if this chunk will probably get bigger, right? As our urban centers tend to get larger. So something very important to think about. So roughly 3% of the earth is ideal for growing crops. So when we look at this, and we already know our land is a precious resource, when you look at this slide, and as you can see on the side there, I have these other boxes from Zoom open on the side there. But when you look at the relationship between the world's population and our agriculture land, what do you guys notice? The darker areas are the more densely populated areas. Oh, I had a great question in the chat. Does that include ranching land? Yes, that does include the ranching land as well. You bet. Great question. So when we look at this map, the world map, and we see all of these darker browns, those are the more densely populated areas. But what do you notice about this, the population in comparison to the land? Do we notice anything? It might be hard to tell on this map, actually. But what we see is we're building our homes and our businesses in areas that do have the best climate and soil for growing crops, right? So we're starting to see our urban footprint expand into areas that are actually perfect and ideal for farming, right? So that's another one of the challenges that we face as the world population grows and things that we need to think about. Whoops. And that was just showing you our most heavily populated areas in those areas of India and China. And again, those populations taking up in those countries their arable land there. So this is just another slide about how we can increase our yields. And that's one of the big things that we're looking at doing is how they've increased, how farmers have increased our yields. You can see the pasture land there as well, but how we're increasing that using our improved practices and using science and technology to help our farmers along the way. So
Tell them how much pasture there is for.
Sorry, I missed that.
It's really cool how much pasture there is for animals.
Yes, yeah, that's awesome. And that's something like when we look at our plant scientists and how they're developing plants that are resistant to insects and disease and drought. We've got our soil scientists and our land managers really developing those soil conservation practices. And then we have like our irrigation engineers that are developing systems that can deliver water and still, you know, grow great crops, right? So compared to 50 years ago, the world uses 68% less land to produce the same amount of food. So that's a really good thing. We've increased our production using less land. So I think that gives us some hope as to how we're going to do that in the future as well. So that was just, again, going over the 3% and then how with best management practices, just like we talked about last week, those 4 R's and those best management practices that we're allowing ourselves to grow 40% of the, using 40% of the total land to grow our food and to or provide grazing for our livestock, right? So when I talk about our how we're going to feed the world sustainably in the year 2050, what are some of the things that you guys have thought about, or as you were playing the game, what are some of the ideas? Did you guys come up with any ideas of your own or things that you found worked best when you were playing the game? You feel free to shout them out or type them in the chat. Be less wasteful. Yeah, that's huge. You bet. Any other ideas out there? We're a quiet group tonight.
Not to waste your food and to give to poor.
Yeah. And then I see someone said creating new technologies. Having less agriculture available places more populated by urban areas, you bet. Aquaponics, better storage. Yeah. That was one of the big things that I'd always forgotten about, was the ability that we have to store our food here that some other countries don't. So for sure. So in Canada, for example, some of the great things that we're doing, as we learned last week, that 4R nutrient stewardship, that's a global program, but it ensures that we're finding the right amount of nutrients. We're doing them at the right rate and the right time. We're improving those social and economic factors. Do you guys remember those pillars in our sustainability barrel and how we can only produce as much as our least factor? So that's all part and parcel of it. We're looking at all the new like the global positioning systems we have and the machinery that we know is being used and guided by those satellites, our auto steering and all of that technology that's helping us become more efficient farmers, as well as like the wetland restoration projects that are happening. So these are all of the things that are helping that we're doing, we see here in Canada. In Africa, for example, they're starting to put up some more cell phone towers. You know, it's a different world, but that's something that they're doing to help increase their communication. and help with market access and education and local jobs, right? In India, for example, they're looking at remote controlled drip irrigation. So they're reducing that evaporation that happens and improving that water utilization by the crop, using that cell phone to turn the water on and off, conserving that water and energy, right? And they're also coming up with new seed varieties. They're doing that worldwide that are going to increase our yield and our crop quality and the resistance to the drought and insects and the disease, those things that we talked about last week that can affect a plant's health. And then of course we're looking at,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, it's really exciting. And I think, you know, you guys are going to be the generation that's going to come up with even more new and exciting ideas, right? And then there's things like the marketing cooperative they are using in India as well, helping them, the producers use, collectively sell their products rather than individually to their markets. So these are new things that we are well aware of in our country, but they're doing in other countries. So I'm just going to go back because I saw there was some more ideas popping up in the chat. If I can find my mouse. There it is. So yeah, urban gardens, educating our city people to grow vertically so less land is needed, right? And we're seeing lots of those, and we're seeing those container gardens and those cubic gardens in the cities where they're starting to grow.
Gardens inside, like greenhouse.
Yeah, exactly. More jobs connected to farming. Yep, that's just it. I've lost my mouse again, sorry. Encouraging people to support agriculture so we can improve the methods we use. That's a great one. And the more people involved, the more ideas we can bring in. That's exactly it. The more people that we can involve and the new ideas that perhaps we might not think of, and being open to those ideas is awesome. Before I go on, yeah. So is there any questions, comments, anything that anyone has for me right now? We're going to wrap up a little bit early today because this portion is a little bit shorter. But is there any questions that anybody has so far, either from last week or this week? Nope. No. Okay. Well, if you guys have any ideas, you can feel free to email your ideas to journey2050@nutrien.com. They collect all these ideas and they share them, and and it makes it, that's how you guys can help as well, right? So feel free to share your ideas with Nutrien. And it's all part of helping reach that sustainable goal of feeding our world. So just a couple reminders. I am going to play a little video as well here in a minute. So again, to feed 10 billion people, we need to reduce our food waste. We need to help our land reach its full potential with using technology, best management practices such as our 4R nutrient stewardship. We also need to pay attention to that plant health, and the soil nutrients play a huge role in increasing those yields. Of course, water is key. We didn't play that level, but those in between levels, you guys can go on and play on your own. And there's videos that go along with everything, so you guys can go on and learn all about the other levels that are in between that we didn't touch on. And that there's a lot of people involved, right? So there's so many opportunities out there for all of you guys to be a part of this. Again, you can get involved by tweeting, how do we sustainably feed 10 billion people by the year 2050? They've got a hashtag there as well that you can use. And then this is the fun part. So there is the expansion. I know some of you guys saw this part earlier, but so Journey 2050 is our school edition.
Where can we find the games exactly?
You can go to journey2050.com, and they're found in all of the app stores. So they're found in the Apple, the Google, I think in the Microsoft store. They're all there, so you can download them to your phones. The home edition is the game called Farmers 2050, and it has a lot more crops and a lot more everything within the home version. So hopefully you guys go and play that home version and learn something, but you can also go ahead, like I said, and play those in between levels that we didn't touch on that involve the water and things like that. So you get to learn a little bit more about that. So hopefully you guys get a chance to do that. This is an screenshot here from the Farmers 2050 game that you can go on and get. So Journey 2050, it's got, like I said, the Apple Store, Google Play, and all of that you can find those games. Now, just wanted to also let you know quickly that this is something that all of our world leaders are working on too. So it's really important to know that it's not just us, that this is something that that everybody is working on, and it's really important too. Sorry, I'm just getting to my right sheet here. This is where the UN has created their 17 sustainability goals. And you can see these are the 17 goals right here on the screen. And this is something that they have that everybody's working towards. They also have a game called Global Hero. You can find that on the app stores, Apple App Store, Google Play as well. So that one's called Global Hero. And it looks at those 17 sustainable development goals that the UN has done. So as you can see, no poverty, no hunger, good health, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, renewable energy, good jobs and economic growth, innovation, infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace and justice, and partnership for the goals. So those are the UN's 17 sustainability goals that everyone's able to, work on. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to touch with you guys on. That is our Journey 2050 program. I hope you guys learned something. This is brought to you in part Ag for Life is who I work for. I'm their education manager. I should have said that at the beginning. I apologize for those that I didn't meet last week. And I work for them, and we deliver the Journey program here in Alberta. Calgary Stampede, they deliver the program within the city of Calgary. And it's brought to you by Nutrien, Agriculture FFA, Nutrients for Life, Alberta Canola, the Ag in the Classroom National, and by 4-H. So that's a great thing. Now, just before I let you all go, I want to remind you, you guys are going to get a Google form. And on that Google form, sorry, I'm getting my other papers. You guys are going to have the ability to enter a contest. So Nutrien is giving you the opportunity to win, and 4-H are giving you the opportunity to win. You can pick whether you want Nutrien swag, or you have the opportunity to go to their reclamation forest, which is awesome. And that's up at Fort Saskatchewan. And that tour will take place on Saturday, September 9th. It's about a 3-hour time commitment for lunch and the tour and the activities. You are responsible for your travel to and from the site, but this is a great opportunity for you guys if you want to see this cool reclamation forest that Nutrien has done and won awards for as well. Or you can enter for some cool Nutrien swag that they have. So you're going to get that via Google form if you signed up for that, and that'll be sent to your emails. So, yeah, does anybody have any questions? You're all so quiet.
Nope, but thanks for having us.
Well, thank you all for joining. I hope you had some fun. I hope you guys keep playing the game. If you have any questions, you can reach out to myself at Ag for Life. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I didn't keep you for the full hour, but I hope you had some fun. All right, have a wonderful evening. If you have any questions,
Thank you.
reach out. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
later.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.